Okay, we can start now. Good morning. Today we have a young and vibrant speaker who will talk about the determinants of rice income and access to land by the rice farmers in Bangladesh. He's an economist and also Doctoral Fellow of his division, and there are division head of the family. And he has masters in social science and bachelor of science with honors in economics degrees from Vassily University. I just learned that he came from Vassily University. And also completed a master's and PhD, both master's and PhD degrees in International Development Studies from the National Graduate Institute for Policy Studies, or GRIPS, in Tokyo, Japan, under the guidance of Professor Sonobe K. Otsuka and Takashi Yamane. And his econometrics professor was our very own Dr. K.A.Mottaleb, who both his master's and PhD degrees. And he also worked in Greece as a postdoctoral research fellow from 2009 to 2011 and as a senior research officer under the Ministry of Public Administration in Bangladesh, so at the same time. So he's married, and sorry girls, and blessed with 2 children, and he wishes to live a peaceful life. Yeah. And to do more opportunities in doing challenging research, while at the same time taking care of his family. So please join me to welcome Dr. K.A.Mottaleb.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in this rainy day. I'm here to present a paper on determinants of rice income and access to land by rice farmers, the case of Bangladesh. This is a joint effort, and collaborators are Takuji Susaka, Said Roman, and Salman. Yeah, let me talk about the importance of rice in Bangladesh first. Bangladesh is a country where 75% of total crop land is under rice, and 93% of total cereal crop produced is rice. And what are the 7%? 4% is maize and 3% is wheat. So you can see the importance of rice in Bangladesh. And you can see that 20% of total GDP is coming from the agriculture sector. So agriculture is really important. And out of agriculture, 11% is coming solely from rice. Not slightly, not only that. The most important part is the agricultural sector with the largest employment provider in Bangladesh, where 47% of the total population is engaged, directly engaged. And out of 47%, there is 24 million. Most of the people, 35% of them are engaged only into rice production. There is 19 million. So you see the importance of rice in the economy of Bangladesh. And in the next slide, I am going to show that the demand for rice in Bangladesh has been increasing steadily over the years. In 2010, we produced and consumed meal rice 31.9 million tons. But to meet that growing demand, the demand is increasing particularly due to increasing income and increasing population. Bangladesh is one of the fastest growing developing countries in the world that is steadily growing since 1990 at 6% rate. So because of this thing, and also population increasing 1.43% per year. So that's why, what happened? Yeah, that's why the demand for rice has been increasing steadily over the years. So we need to produce additional, more or less 7 million tons to meet the demand in 2020, and additional 11 million tons to meet the demand in 2025. Under this circumstance, actually, it is really challenging for us to meet the demand. And next slide, I am going to show the most important challenge for Bangladesh to meet the demand. This is Bangladesh is one of the most populous countries in the world, which is physical size is ranked 94th, but in population is 9th in the world. And per square kilometer, 1,015 people. This enormous population pressure actually reduces per capita arable land in Bangladesh, and also the farm side. You can see from here, in 1961, per capita arable land in Bangladesh was more than 0.16 hectare. But in 2008, it has reduced to 0.05 hectare. And also, because the per capita arable land is declining, also the per capita farm size is also declining in Bangladesh. So, in the one hand, we need to produce more rice, because to meet the growing demand in 2020, I already showed that we need to produce but the arable land is declining in Bangladesh. And this is one of the major reasons why rural poverty is persisting in Bangladesh. Because if population increase and land size is the case, then per capita marginal productivity of labor must be declined over the time. And that is happening in Bangladesh. And you see from here, the labor force, total labor force in Bangladesh is increasing steadily. In 2010, total labor force was 54 million. Just within 20 years, 10 million, 40 million additional labor force joining the total labor force in Bangladesh. But the second challenge is not only that. The climate is a real challenging issue in Bangladesh, not only in Bangladesh but also globally. It is said that the climate has been changing in such a manner that this has not been seen for the last 200 years. The global precipitation rate is increasing or decreasing in some cases. In some area it will be decreased, in some area it will be increased. Temperature is increasing, and you know that a 1% increase, a 1 degree increase in temperature will reduce rice production by 10%. Now I will show you some slide that in case of Bangladesh, I have taken 4 weather stations in Bangladesh to cover entire Bangladesh. That is, one is Chittagong, another is Sylhet, another is Bogora and Joshua. These are the 4 stations, and you can see the temperature. This is the maximum average monthly temperature in Bangladesh. It has been increasing since 1980s. You see the rate. And also, in the next slide, you can see that the precipitation rate is going to be erratic, more erratic. I can tell you one thing, this is the area, the upper part, the Sylhet division is one of the most rainful area in the world, after Cherrapunji in Assam. You know that Cherrapunji in Assam is the highest rainful area in the world, and it is adjacent to that area. And you see, this area's rainfall is declining since 1990s, it's declining. But in this area, there is Chittagong is increasing, and you can see the volatility of rainfall. And also in the down, this is really amazing to me, I don't know why, but sunshine. This is measure of bright sunshine in a day. How many hours the sunshine was bright? And it has declined since 1980s in case of Bangladesh. So the question is, we need to produce more rice to meet the global and to meet the demand, and we need to produce more rice to maintain the livelihood of 19 million of total population are directly engaged in rice production. But arable land is declining in Bangladesh per capita, and also climate change is showing some erratic condition. I mean, it's volatility you can see from here. The thing is, this thing is only not unique for Bangladesh. The thing is also unique for other South Asian countries as well. For example, India, Nepal, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka, they also need to produce more rice to meet that internal demand. For example, India, they need to produce 20 million ton more rice to meet demand in 2035. And Pakistan, they need to produce double to meet their demand. And also in Nepal and Sri Lanka, they need to produce more than 1 million ton of rice to meet the demand in 2035. And importantly, per capita arable land in these countries is also declining. You can see from here in 1961, this was Pakistan per capita arable land, and in 2008, it has here. Except Sri Lanka, maybe Sri Lanka has some war or something, the per capita arable land is more or less stagnant until 1980. But you can see the same condition in Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, and Nepal. Now the question is, we need to produce more rice, but arable land is declining. Now, how to produce more rice to meet the demand, at the same time to maintain the income of the population, income of the farmers? One question. We assume that because the climate is changing, so if we can develop new varieties which is more resilient to global climate change, we can ensure rice income of the farmers. It will not be high yielding variety, but if we can mitigate the climate problem, that is, if it is more resilient to climate, then we can mitigate the loss. So it will be mean increasing in the yield. So in this way, we can increase the rice income of the farmer. At the same time, the question is, how can we reduce burden on arable land? Here we believe that I'm going to cite the experience of East Asian countries. In East Asia, actually, the things happened in the times of Green Revolution. Increasing rice income, it actually enhances people to move from agriculture to non-agriculture sector, from farm sector to non-farm sector. And that is the major reason why farm size in Japan, it was initially small, and now it is getting larger. The same time in Taiwan and Korea. So we believe that if we can increase income, rice income of the farmers, ultimately we can reduce the burden on the agriculture, on the arable land. So that is our major thing. And we developed a small model that how can we do this. So in our model we have shown that the climate, infrastructure, household characteristics, also physical and human capital, it can affect rice income, farm income, at the same time non-farm income. And this interaction farm and non-farm income can affect agricultural land access. In here, we assume that there are three major, besides inheritance of land, there are three major ways how can a person access to agricultural land. He can rent in, he can rent out, and he can purchase. So these are the things. And data for this study, I use, this is my main hypothesis, that as I have mentioned that by developing more climate resilient variety, we can ensure rice income, and by increasing income, we can reduce pressure on arable land, because by increasing income, people can shift from agriculture to non-agricultural sector. This means they might take more managerial role than being a tenant. And this way we can reduce pressure on agriculture land. The data for this study we use actually government data, secondary data, and that is household income and expenditure survey. We use 2000, 2005, and 2010 data, 10 years data. And about the sampling, government of Bangladesh, they use two stratified random sampling. The first is they select 612 primary sampling units based on the homogeneity of the geographical area. And after that, in the second stage, they select randomly 20 households from each primary sampling unit. So this, for example, so that is the sampling system. And sample size in age data is more than 7,000. In 2005 it was 10,000, and in 2020 it was 12,000. But as we are particularly interested only on the rice farmers and their access to land, so we have taken only those households whose income was rice income was strictly positive. That's what we have taken. So our sample size is only 8,630, these 3 years. And this sample size covers entire Bangladesh, 7 divisions, 64 districts, and 384 sub-districts. And climate data, we have collected in connection with unpublished data. I got it from, as Andy suggested me to communicate climate office in Bangladesh. Actually, I communicated, and I found it's luckily one of my friends, and he gave me unpublished data on the sunshine and the rainfall and those things. And also, the graph I made based on the data online available, made by the Bangladesh Agriculture Research Council. I'm going to show the basic household characteristics of those taken from this. So as I mentioned, that this paper is based on 8,630 households. You can see the distribution of the households. In 2000, number of households was 2,600, 2005 3,500, and 2010 2,500 households. And these are the household level average. So this table shows that on average, a household head is 45 years old at the minimum, and his probability of being male is more than 90%, and probability of that he is from rural area is more than 83%, and all average he is 3 years education. His years of schooling is 3 years. So that is the table. So this is household level average data. This table shows the income. So it shows that in 2010, on average, sample household income, total income, farm, non-farm, and everything, was 137,000 Bangladesh taka, and it is a real value. I deflated using 1995 as my base price index. And income from rice sector is 23%. It was in 2000, 21%, 31%. So what I think is actually, I believe in Joe Balaka's paper that in 2008 there was a price hike of commodity price, so people are more inclined to produce more rice. So that can be one explanation. And because, remember, this is only the farm household, so because they put more time in production of rice, so they put less time on non-farm. So that's why the income has decreased. In the next slide, I have shown the farm size. As I mentioned that the farm size in Bangladesh is declining. So you can see from in 2000, it was 1.15 hectares per household average. In 2000, it has reduced to 0.78 hectares. And out of those 8,630 households, actually 4% of them they purchased land in 2000, and 5%, more than 5% of them they purchased land in 2010. And the percentage of people who purchased land And you can see the land rental market is very active in Bangladesh. More than 50% of total sample household, they rented in their land. And more than 20% of them, they rented out their land. So this means rural land market in Bangladesh is really very active. Here I have shown that the characteristics of the household who purchase land and who rent in land. So in this sample, I just only consider 2010 data set. And then here you can see number of, out of total sample size in 2010, 137 of them they purchased land. And most importantly, what I want to emphasize here, those who purchase land, their income, both farm and non-farm income, tend to be very high compared to who did not purchase. Similarly, oppositely, by contrast, those who rented in land, they are poorer than those who did not rent in land. So it means rich farmers with high rice income and high non-farm income, they tend to purchase land, but poor farmers with low rice income and low non-farm income, they tend to rent in land. So this means rich farmers are not renting in land. We cannot say that whether rich farmer rented out or not from this slide, but it is the case that poor farmers are renting land. Actually, renting land in Bangladesh is not very prestigious thing, I can tell you. Only the poor farmers, they rent it. So this is the case that with high income, they purchase land, but with low income, they rent in land. I can show who rent out and rent in. You can see from here, those who rent in land, their income is very low compared to those who rent out. This means higher the income, a farmer, farm income and non-farm income, particularly rice income and non-farm income, they tend to rent out land to their poor farmers. So these two slides showing that income and land renting or rent out has correlation, in which higher the income, there's a positive correlation between rent out and income, and higher the income, there's a negative correlation between renting and income. From this slide explanation. Now the question is, what determines the rice income? So here you can see the rice income has a positive correlation and negative correlation with renting, rent out, and land purchase. So if rice income is high, they tend to purchase. Rice income is high, they tend to rent out. Rice income is low, they tend to rent in. So the question is, what determines rice income?
Mottaleb, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Are those figures statistically significant?
Actually, very much. I did not show this one because of the slide constraint. I can show the t statistics of between these two. It's very much significant because of very high number of sample size. So it's very, yeah. So in the next slide, I'm showing the determinants of rice income and non-farm income. As I mentioned that the climate variable can be really important. You can see from it, this is simple correlation matrix. Pairwise correlation with level of significance. Here are some variables I need to explain. Distance from Dhaka. Actually, the district headquarters in Dhaka. The distance I have taken. Why I have taken? Maybe this is a a kind of symbol of urbanization. If closer to Dhaka might be more urbanized, or maybe speed of urbanization is very high. And if urban area, then you can see that people are more inclined to produce more perishable goods than rice. And this is the length of metal road. It's again another approximation of urbanization. If more metal road, this means more urban area. If no metal road, this means very rural area. So this is the case. And you can see distance to Dhaka is positive and significant. This means more rural area, the people are more likely to produce rice. And also the metal road, more rural areas, this again. And also, I want to just mention non-farm income. You can see from here, metal road and very highly positively correlated. This is because in urban area, non-farm income opportunity tends to be very high. So that's the reason. Based on this, let me summarize again. We have shown that the population pressure is enormous in Bangladesh, and per capita arable land is declining drastically over the years. In 2000, it was the average farm size of a farmer was 1.110 hectare. In 2010, it has reduced to 0.78 hectare. But we need to produce more rice. And what are the challenges? I mentioned that challenges are declining arable land, at the same time volatile climate. And we have shown that how can we reduce pressure on arable land? How can we reduce pressure on arable land? By increasing income. Because we have shown that by a rich farmer, he tends to rent out his land. He might be more manager. He might rent out his land and take a managerial position. So this is one of the ways. Also, we have shown that a rich farmer, he tend to purchase land, but he also tend to rent out land. Only the poor farmers, they have access to land by renting, and we have shown that rich farmer, they rent out the land with higher income. And also, we have, in this slide, we have shown that the weather variables, the climate and those some other variables like distance to urbanization, is affect rice income and non-farm income. To grasp this, duality in the model, I have developed this model. There is in which I have mentioned that YIT is a vector of variables, which is showing that whether a farmer purchases land or renting land or rent out land. If he purchases, it is 1. If he does not purchase, it is 0. If he renting, it is 1. If he does not, then 0. And if he rent out, it is 1. Otherwise, it is 0. So it is my dependent variable. My independent variables are rice income and non-farm income and some other exogenous like the year dummies and some exogenous variable like age of the farmers, schooling, and those things. In the second stage,
I saw the yes. But can you define what non-farm income is?
So actually,
it could be
sure.
There are different definitions of non-farm.
Yeah. So here, non-farm income includes wage income. Actually, it is not completely. He might be agriculture wage earner. So if this is a non-farm income in my case. Also his salary income. Also his business income. He might be a small entrepreneur. So there is the net revenue here. Also his remittance. And remittance is divided between domestic remittance. Those, let's say, some farmer's son works in Dhaka city and he sends some money to his father. There is also foreign remittance. So these are the definition of my non-farm income. Okay?
So agricultural labor is included in the non-farm income?
Wage income, yeah. Agricultural wage income or non-agricultural wage income is non-farm income.
So, because the off-farm and non-farm.
So actually it's very difficult to distinguish this secondary areas. Okay, so that's why wage is might be wage is included here. Non-farm and farm wages also. And so this is my other model. And in this case, as I mentioned, that the rice income depends on some other variables. So these are the other variables here, JDI. So JDI is a variable which is directly correlated with rice income, but it doesn't correlate it with the error term of the first stage, because that is the instrument characteristic that must be this condition must be satisfied if we treat this as an instrument. Same set of variables we use to estimate non-farm income also at the same time. And this is my definition. Yes, I use one, and I'm going to show the first stage result, determinants of rice income and determinants of non-farm income. As we expected, distance from Dhaka city is positive and significant. We show this thing in the correlation table. It's again using econometrics. I'm showing that the rural area actually are more likely to produce more rice than the urban area. And non-farm income tends to be low in rural area because non-farm income opportunity is very low in the rural area. This is very obvious. The most important part, what I want to mention here is that annual rainfall, that standard deviation is negative and significant. This means due to volatile climate, if rainfall is really erratic and if the standard deviation is really very high, then rice income will be low in this case. And also the square of the maximum temperature is very low. This means increase in temperature will reduce rice income. I'm not focusing on the non-farm income very much, but I want to mention one thing here, that schooling of the household here. You can see from here it is really highly significant and positive in both cases, farm income and non-farm income. This means by enhancing schooling, it is possible to increase farm income at the same time non-farm income. How, I will explain later. Let me show you the second stage, that is what we are interested to see. You can see from here, rice income, as we mentioned earlier, as I showed in the earlier slides, increase in income, they tend to rent out, increase in income, they tend to purchase, and increase in income, they less likely to rent in. It is the case. Higher the income, they purchase. Higher the income, they're less likely to rent in. Higher the income, they're more likely to rent out. So this is the way how can we reduce burden on arable land in Bangladesh. At the same time, non-farm income. So it is the same size. That the size of the population is the same. So increase in non-farm income also at the same time it might enhance land purchase and rent out to the farmers. And in that down, I have shown the validity of my instruments. You can see the standard Hansen J statistics. It is really insignificant in all cases. This means my instruments are not over-amplified and it is strictly exogenous in this case. Now the major findings, very obvious. Changing global climate may affect rice income negatively and significantly because erratic rainfall is reducing rice here, rice income, and also increasing temperature reducing rice production, rice income here. And also years of schooling of the household rate is significant and positive. So as I mentioned that both farm income and non-farm income tend to be very high if the household rate is elevated. Years of schooling is very high in these periods. And increasing rice income and non-farm income allows farmers to take managerial roles because they are higher income, they tend to rent out the land rather than. So this is the case. Based on these major findings, I come up with two types of recommendation. One is short-term recommendation, policy implication, and then the long-term. In short term, to reduce burden, we need to produce rice, but it can be done by developing more climate-resilient varieties, by mitigating the loss in yield. Let's say high temperature, we need to produce heat-tolerant variety, and also we need to produce some variety which might be more sustainable under the erratic rainfall. This can be one thing, and extension of general irrigation can play a really important role in Bangladesh because we have shown that this is really positive and significant. The question is, can we send back the old farmer, let's say 25-year-old farmer, to go back to his school to learn until class 3? Because here, average variable is class 3. We cannot. So, in that case, we can replace this thing by the professional training. Why educated people tend to have more income? Because they might be more smart in getting information. So, this information we can give through the training. Even mobile, I hear that in Philippines it is already introduced. That mobile technology, they are giving information that when you should put fertilizer, what variety you can get from where, through mobile. This can also be a part of training. And in this case, to develop new variety and to provide new information, international donor agencies, with the help of local government, can intervene in the market. And I have my second implication, which is long term. Climate resilient variety alone might not be able to mitigate the problem. Rather, we need to go for some high yielding, super high yielding variety combined with climate resilient variety. So this can be the ultimate solution. Then we can produce more rice from small parcel of land. Maybe C4 rice is the another alternative which goes straight, more heat tolerant, more stress tolerant variety with high yielding. And by doing so, we can ensure more income, more production, and by doing so, we can reduce burden on arable. Yeah, that's all about my presentation. And at this stage, I'll be very happy to entertain some questions. Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay. Zeni, anyone and Zeni too. Yeah.
I just would like to take clarification on the measure of climate change.
Yeah.
Because
Very
the
nice.
stations, you have 4 stations.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Stations, we have 4 stations. And temperature, rainfall were taken from those stations. But are these households
8,600.
very close to that station? Because the station may give you the data, but the actual data in the field would be different.
That is very true. Actually, for my data, I requested Andy, and he said that you can communicate. And then I said, actually, we don't have. So in Bangladesh, we have, for the rainfall, we have 28 stations. So data comes from 28 stations. For the temperature, we have 18 stations only, and humidity 18. So I interpolate the data based on the nearest location. Let's say station is in Dhaka city. Yeah, actually, and he sent me once one PDF, and it was really helpful about the weather data. Yeah, I use that one. So let's say this is Bogura district, and then some addressing district. I use the same data for those. So this is the kind of
And households
and the household at the same area. So that is my weather data. So 64 districts, but I had 28 weather stations. That is my 60.
Yes, ma'am.
Mottaleb, just 3 points.
Yeah.
First, how do you define access to land? Because for me, we were talking here, and we think that the access to land means being able to cultivate the land. And in that case, you would be an owner, you would be a renter, or you must be a lease. Yeah, you must be a leasehold. So why did you consider instead of the lease in, you have rent out in your model? That's one. Two, before I forget. Second, when you show rise income and then as a dependent, sorry, and you said that when farmer who's poor would rent in, right? And a farmer who's rich would own or would rent out. So therefore, what you're saying is that renting in and renting out is dependent on income, right? And not vice versa. So maybe your model should be probate, rent in, rent out, and that's a function of income rather than vice versa. The second. And third, some of your tables are not exhaustive. Say for example, I think one reason is because you define access to land as owned, rent in, and rent out. If you define it as owned, rent in, and lease in, then it will be exhaustive. You'll have a total of 100%. And then I think what I brought up earlier, you should have an exhaustive also definition of income. So if you have income from rice as a percentage and income from non-farm, where's the rest of the 100%? So that gives us one.
Nice. First question. I explicitly include 3 terms here, not only rent in. Yeah, please. I also include rent out, rent in, and rent purchase. So it answers your question. Maybe, I don't know, I didn't why you asked. So I include 3. Rent in, rent out also at the same time.
When access to land, I don't know how you define access to land.
Yeah, this is my rent. So you see my model description here. The first one is, I'm saying that exclusively, this model includes 3 access. Land purchase, renting, and rent out. These are the only 3 means of access. Except you encroach the land. If you powerfully access to land, otherwise you have to go through this process.
How about lease in?
That is rent in.
Rent in.
Yeah, that is lease in. And lease out is rent out here. The same thing actually. I just mentioned the term is different here. That's why.
So your rent in is also including lease in.
Yeah. Rent out is also including lease out. And purchase is purchase. That's the case. Number 2. I think my model is econometrically very sound and very fine. Because I have shown here land purchase here is a function of income. And I have shown here income is a function of something. That is my model. That's what you said actually. And I have done it. You see from here. Income is my independent variable at the same time. Because income depends on something else, that's why I put it as a dependent variable at the same time. So that's why it is 2 states. One question you mentioned very nice.
You have a table where you have here the independent variable.
Oh, maybe next one, right? But that will be confused you. This is first stage. Remember, this is first stage.
Another case.
And this is second stage.
But you have the rent. Yeah.
This is second stage. That is the 2 stage least square. You mentioned one thing. That's what I did not do it. That is I did probate. I should go for probate model, but remember I have done here only 2 stage least square. The reason is probate model I cannot. It's really difficult to get very long process to complete. Ultimately we'll go to that. But remember this is least square method. Yeah, I will include I will probate in our estimation. But frankly speaking, in least square method you can readily get this exogenate TP. And whether you are really doing a nice model or not, you can get this one. So to save my time, I have used this model. Otherwise, I could go for probate model. Only the difference is. Next.
Yes, please. Ma'am, sorry. Yeah. Then after that.
your recommendation that you recommended for climate resilient varieties.
It's drought tolerant.
Yeah, not only drought tolerant. These days people are talking for drought, salinity, submergence,
Exactly.
all in one. My comment on that point is, do you think that only varieties can make the changes, or agronomists should do something else?
Very important question.
Right. I suggest you to mention cultural practices as well. Right. Not only the varieties, but the cultural practices, modifications in cultural practices, like shifting from transplanting rice to the direct seeded ones. So those kind of changes are required in the low income area. That is my suggestion. Maybe not applicable in the low lying or submerged area, but if you think as a whole for a country having upland and lowland and all kind of ecosystems, I think we can shift to the direct seeded rice, and then we can make some, then we can improve.
Yeah, very nice. I thought that you are only a drought specialist, but you are agronomist, I didn't know. Yeah, the first question about agronomy, actually partly it is included in the schooling. So training and schooling, that is the important part what I mentioned here. And second one, yeah, I cannot, because I have shown here the income and land access, I cannot say that practice should be changed. And then people will ask, what is your basis? In this research I cannot, maybe it can be another research. But in this research, this is beyond my scope. Of course, it is true. But in this paper, I cannot recommend this one. But partly, I have answered your first question. The training and schooling is important for increasing rice income, because in this way you can, improve the agronomy practice of the people.
Okay, we have Dr. Castillo.
You did not mention what rice variety the farmers use. Now, how can you say that one way to increase their income is to plant new rice variety when you don't have the evidence here that new rice variety contributed to their increase in income? What you have is rent in, rent out. So how can you arrive at that conclusion?
Actually,
I
yeah.
cannot understand it.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Actually, yeah, I have shown some evidence that. So I have shown some evidence here that what are the factors that is negatively or positively affecting rice income. You can see from here that maximum temperature, if it increase, then rice income decrease. If rainfall is a very high variation, then rice income decrease. Based on these findings, I propose that maybe if we can develop, of course, I don't have direct information. This is secondary data. We don't have direct information. See, I have only three. I can actually, I'm sorry. This is my next paper actually. I'm going to write another paper using that Moody's data, that how house and household income, how house and household income is affecting through climate. But this is my evidence. If the climate variable is really affecting negatively rice income, not the variety. It is a total rice income. I aggregate today.
You are using rainfall and temperature.
Temperature, rainfall, and humidity also. So climate. And I have shown here that if temperature increase, then it is negative and significant. And this means rice income will decrease. And if rainfall is very erratic, very volatile, someday very huge rain, someday no rain, like this, then rice income will decrease. Based on this, I conclude that if it is possible to develop new variety, which is more resilient to climate change, because it is predicted that in future climate will be more volatile. Maybe extreme events like drought, flood, and submergence will be very more frequent.
Well, you better say that.
Sure, I will.
Okay,
I just want to follow up on this question, because when you showed the hypothesis, search hypothesis, we have the answer.
Yeah.
You said that can be insured by developing. I mean, I think that is not you're not answering the hypothesis in the paper. That high-rise income can be insured by developing and disseminating more climate resilient and price varieties. These are your recommendations, but these are not.
Actually, again, I will to refer to the, yeah, I got your question.
And number two is that how come you did not use the differences in stress, the classification according to stress? Because that's what we're doing now with drought, submergence, salinity. Instead of lumping this or the area into one or into more disease.
Then it is very difficult. This secondary data, I need money from Sam then to make it contact a study in Bangladesh and getting this
I
thing.
don't think that's difficult because there are already many existing information on that.
And one more thing I can add here.
Even
Actually,
on the village or the because Dr. Hussain has already.
so actually, I get indirectly I include 7 emissions dummy here. So to some extent, that control my result. But I have planned to go for Fujina level dummy actually. We cannot use 60 here because there are some heat factors. If you use 60 model, then it will be eliminated. So we are going to use kind of Fujina level dummy, that is 387 dummy. It will include, it will control those.
Yeah,
that is our next plan. And I think your first question, I already to some extent I focused on that how rice income can be ensured. Again, let me show the result. Yeah, that one that I show that because rice income is reducing because of high temperature and erratic rainfall, we can minimize the loss. Reduction can be minimized by developing more climate resilient varieties. That's what I'm doing. Let's say if this is positive and significant, we can make it, then it's fine. That's my, yeah.
I've got a couple of questions about the way you use the data in some of the analysis. The climate data, the monthly averages that you've used for rainfall and temperature. Can you tell me a bit about that? Because there are 3 potential rice seasons in Bangladesh. Are you relating your averages to the season when the farmer was actually cultivating rice from those surveys? I mean, are you changing the month for each point to make sure that the climate data you're looking at for that farmer is relevant to when they were actually cultivating rice? Maybe you are, I just didn't see it in the table. And I think that would be really interesting to look at changes from those farmers who are planting rice in different seasons to see if there are different effects. Is there any anecdotal evidence that farmers are shifting from one season to the other because of perceived changes in climate? And the other question is about the data that you had right at the beginning, which I thought was fascinating about the average household age going up, which I think, in terms of farmers, farmer household head age is increasing over the last 10 years. I think that's happening in several places where we see that there are not too many young farmers coming through, and what we're seeing the average age increase. And the number of female-headed farm households is increasing, which is a positive thing. And yet the number of years of schooling, I don't know what's going on there, but generally, do you see these trends having any, I mean, is that long enough for you to say anything about what those trends mean for the future if that carries on?
Speaking, I found that age, yes, actually age is not, I'm not focusing on age, but I found that actually
That's because you're still young.
Age is really positive and significant in my model.
Mm-hmm.
I did not focus on that much. And your first question actually, I know this is our another paper that was me, Murali, you, and Sam to be proposed on paper. That how farmers are shifting their behavior at the district level because of drought and submergence using Moody's data. That's what we are furnishing. And here in this, it is very difficult. I cannot get this information when they saw or when they planted. I cannot. That's what I did here. I merge all household and borrow income together. And then I use average monthly rainfall and average monthly temperature. This is course in a sense, this is not financial. So it's because of data limitation, which we cannot Yeah, it would be great. I mean, if we could see. Actually, we are going to see in the next paper that how rice area, whether it's expanding or contracting in Bangladesh, and why. Whether there is any effect of drought and submergence and other variables also at the same time. We are going to show this one. I have data for 20 years in Bangladesh now. So over the 20 years, what changes has happened? Actually, nothing much. Except one thing I can tell you here, although this is not here. There's a borough extension, borough cultivation is extending in Bangladesh. And out is leading sea. Because out is rain-fed and borough is more technology-oriented, irrigated and input, I mean, chemical fertilizer based. So people are going to that. That's what we can say at this stage. We don't know. It is under process.
Okay, we have Kate.
Whoa.
Kate first, then Val and Val.
I have one question about your two-stage model. Do you have what are the variables which affect the rice income but do not affect the rent, renting or rent out?
These are the things actually. This is very nice question. So I include exactly the rainfall, temperature, and humidity in my first stage. And I assume that this humidity, rainfall has nothing to do with directly with rainfall, I mean with land rejection, but it has direct effect on rice income, that is rice production. That is my, so these are my instruments what I use in the first stage. And actually I show you my result. Yeah, I mean, it is pretty much logical actually. That temperature might not affect land transaction. It might affect directly, more likely to the rice income. Rainfall, if it is heavy rainfall, then does it mean that people will maybe very far?
So then that rice income is realized at the end of the season. And
Yeah.
then that transaction is actually, decision is made before that. Will that signal something more? I don't have to do that.
So this is actually yearly data. The data question was like that, did you buy land? Yes, no, within this year. Exactly like, what was your rice income in this year? How someone and more, and then I aggregate with that. This, I cannot say from this data, we cannot see that what is the sequence, whether they decide before to sell land or buy land. And yeah, I know this very.
Thank you, Mottaleb. With the first question, the rice income that you're referring to here, is it net rice income?
It's a gross.
It's a gross.
Production multiplied by price.
Okay, but did you actually check from the source if that was a question directly asked to the farmer, or is it completely just a gross, simply a gross?
So the question was actually there in a household data set. So they asked the question to the one responded from the household. It might be household head, it might be son of the household head.
Okay, my suggestion is this: is try to investigate this a little bit more and see if there's a possibility to emphasize on net price income.
Net price income.
Yeah,
You
that's
mean
it.
the
Yeah.
finance cost.
Yeah, that's the very first one. The second one is just a contribution related to Gay's question. You claim that your instrument here is quite solid, right? But I feel a little bit that there is more than that explain the rise income in your first stage. So that's something to investigate as well.
Sure.
Yeah, and the very last one, there is this criticism that comes along quite often now where when you're looking at the determinant of rice income, you tend to look at the distribution as a whole. What determines rice income for the poor is not exactly what determines for the rich ones, right? There's a possibility to extend this. Think about, extending this model to differentiate between the two categories and how this can enhance your overall result.
So you are suggesting me to go for quantization or like
It could be. I haven't seen that very often, but that's something that you can actually see how you can use this as an instrument and at the same time put it in a quantile kind of approach.
In this case, without taking 0 and 1, actually here my dependent has 0 and 1.
Yeah.
Whether we purchase land or not, then we can go for kind of sensor-topic model, taking the range of how much you purchase. Actually, that information. Hopefully, that's very close.
Just a suggestion.
Yeah.
Maybe a time.
Can you determine the climate table?
Yeah. Climate table?
Yeah. Correlation between the climate.
Yeah, sure.
Did you use the data sets for the 3 periods? Because you have 3 periods, the data are.
Yeah, 3 periods.
So I'm wondering it could be a effect of price and yield. Because you're using the 3 periods. It is possible that the rice income is more affected by changes in prices or yield, not exactly for the climate variables. Maybe if you could correlate directly the climate variables to yield, then
So
you will have a different result.
You are suggesting me to not to go for, actually here the rice income is P into Q, okay? Total production, you are the market price. So you are suggesting me to go for Q, right? Only for production.
Yeah.
Sure, I can do that.
Because if you are only using one data set for 1 year, that's fine. But you are using 3 periods. It's possible that the rice income is affected by price.
Specifically in this table.
And then also by yield, but not
Yeah, it's possible.
only the climate variable.
Then I think, President, we have last 2 questions from Dr. Castillo and
Do you have evidences to show that the so-called climate resilient varieties are truly climate resilient? Because you are jumping into a great leap of faith. They are only climate resilient. They are not yet climate advantageous. I think we should cite the evidences from to buttress your using rainfall and temperature.
Actually, yes, climate resilient variety is really working. I mean, I can show, I don't have the picture here, but I can show Takashi Yamano's picture when he visited Odisha. So he visited Odisha and he got very excellent picture about submergent variety. And after 15 days, the farmer who did not use submergent, that specific variety, is completely disappeared. But those who used the variety which Shona someone survived. So climate resilient variety.
You should cite those evidence.
Sure, I will.
Instead of just assuming that that will happen.
Actually, I'm trying to see in my paper.
I just want to raise one interesting result of your paper. You say that the farmers are aging, particularly the weight-headed household. Do you think this has an effect? I mean, it's one of the reasons why they are aging now, because you don't want to bother cultivating the land, so you might as well rent it out and not manage to.
So actually, aging problem is a very common problem. This is a very, I can say, stylized fact. A country which is developed, I mean, developing country is a very stylized fact. In Japan, it's a very big problem. In Korea also, in Taiwan also. So who knows, maybe in Bangladesh, after 50 years later, when Bangladesh should be Japan, it will be the same case. But here, yeah. So age, and you are asking me to see the age.
Because your conclusion is different. You need more training.
Yeah.
But do you think the training can really make the old people more?
More productive or not?
I think you need to examine your conclusion.
The age and
give more importance to visitors. The reason why they want to rent the land is because they're already aging. They don't have time to cultivate it. So I think you just have to check that conclusion.
What is the average life expectancy?
In Bangladesh? It was 58, but now luckily we are able to live 2 more years, so 60. 60 years.
One last question. When you look at the magnitude of the coefficient on years of schooling, right? For rice income, it was 0.97, and then for non-farm, and then the other one 2 point something.
That is non-farm income.
Non-farm, yeah. And then you say that we cannot send back the farmers to schooling again, which is right? But just imagine if we have the possibility to increase the human capital somehow. Do you think these guys are still remain, at least they're still going to remain in agriculture and producing rice? Because the non-farm income has a higher magnitude, so there might be a trend toward.
But I think you know the answer. So this is very shallow stuck in the world, right? People gradually shift from agriculture to non-agriculture. Everywhere in the world, obviously this will happen in Bangladesh for sure. If you give high human capital, maybe some people will leave because marginal productivity of labor is very high in non-farm sector. If you have human capital is very high. Imagine a person like me. I'm getting here the salary. I cannot earn this much working in field, although I have PhD. So these are very clear understanding.
Okay. Thank you, Mottaleb, for such an interesting